you walk that this is a COP focusing on implementation. And implementation comes with a lot of action that is needed and a lot of responsibility across all actors. The situation where we are I think it's very clear. We are challenged to be on track to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. The Secretariat has just recently published its NDC synthesis report, and there is a clear evidence that not only we are lagging behind, but we need really much more and stepping up in terms of climate action at all levels. Now, of course, when we talk about action, we need solutions, and solutions are definitely to be coming from technology, from innovations, and from all those actors that are active in this and at the forefront of finding the solutions. So we need to work, think, and doing things in a different way with more ambition, and then bring these to the integral plans that are developed at the national level to make sure that this can be delivered. So innovation is at the center of climate action. If we want to be more efficient in the use of energy, resources, and materials, innovation is playing a critical role. If we want to unlock the potential of new and emerging technologies or better use the existing one, innovation is key. If you want to step up public and private partnerships and tap to unconventional financing options, again, it's a matter of innovating and being there. And then if you want to decarbonize industry sectors and mainstream climate agenda across all society, we need to rely on innovation. So all this comes in, when you promote smart cities, smart grids, smart agriculture, everywhere across, we are looking at innovation. So, but also we need innovation in our multilateral processes if we want to be really ambitious and respond to the demand that is there. So we at the Climate Change Secretariat, of course, we are always trying to do our part, and we are also ready to become this global hub for climate action, having this approach of inclusive multilateralism. And we all know that the technology mechanism has already done a lot in this space, not only in developing the policy side that are coming from the process, but also looking at all possible synergies across the work of the technology mechanism and other processes. The TEC and the CTCN have really done a commendable job in convening various technology stakeholders, both at the state level and non-state actors, the private sector as well, and also to support all this process in delivering in the mandates under the Convention and the Paris Agreement. Now the technology mechanism is embarking in a new chapter of the work under the very first joint work program for the years 23-27. So not only congratulating them for achieving this step, but also to work towards higher ambition and accelerated and timely action as a result of this joint effort. So I can stop here and simply say that the technology team in the Secretariat, our own Secretariat, is always at the disposal of all actors to support the work of the process and, of course, to support the work of the technology mechanism. So I wish you a very good and fruitful discussion, and I give you back the floor, Ariesta. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much for the floor, Madam Facilitator. Thank you, Daniel, for your introductory remarks. And of course, thank you to all of you, much of you present on your capacity as negotiators to this agenda item in particular. So we'll be happy to present to you what has been our work in the past year and present to you the new work for the future 5 years. This is a space for us to directly engage with technology stakeholders at every COP. We report on our ongoing work and the future work and hear from the technology stakeholders and you on their initiatives and actions. We hear the feedback from the stakeholders, both state and non-state actors, on our efforts and discuss ways for improving the impact of the work of the TEC and utilizing synergies that may exist between institutions. We build connections and forge partnerships with those interested actors that are interested in supporting the work of the TEC and the CTCN and pursuing collaborative efforts. I will present very briefly what we did this past year. On innovation, we work on the preparation of a compilation of good practices and lessons learned in setting up and implementing a national system of innovation. On implementation, we produce a technical paper and a policy brief on linkages between the TNA and NDC processes, including key message and recommendations to the COP and the CMA. On enable environments, we produce a technical paper on decarbonization technologies for sustainable road mobility, including key message and recommendations to the COP in the CMA. May I say this paper may be of special interest to stakeholders that are also not familiar with UNFCCC processes, and I invite you all to look deep into it. We also, on collaboration and stakeholder engagement, have continued to engage with relevant bodies under and outside the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement, including enhanced collaboration with the YONGO, as well the Gender and Women Constituency. On support, we produce a technical paper and a policy brief on experience and lessons learned concerning the support provided by the GCF and the EF for climate technologies development and transfer, including key message and recommendations to the COP and the CMA in the joint annual report. Of course, during this year, we prepared the new rolling work plan of the TEC, and in this preparation, we invited parties and stakeholders to provide their inputs, and we're very happy to report that we received several inputs by different parties, but also by very relevant contributions, such as the Adaptation Fund, FAO, YPO, and other international institutions. Innovation is a key pillar of the technology framework under the Paris Agreement, and both the TEC and the CTCN have pursued this topic in their past and current work, and intend to continue to step up the work in the coming years. At TEC, for example, we have in the past conducted work on climate technology incubators and accelerators, informing the work of the Council of the Green Climate Fund on this matter, also published various knowledge products on good practices and lessons learned from international collaborative research, development, and demonstration initiative of climate technology, and most recently, we initiated the work on national system innovation through a selection of good practices and case studies from different types of countries and regions. Innovation is a cross-cutting theme. When we talk about support, we refer to innovative financing solutions that could bolster technological solutions. When we address adaptation technologies, we look for innovation for developing scalable business cases and scaling up of such technologies, and the list goes on. During this year, we also have the release of the contribution of the Working Group 3 of the IPCC that had a dedicated chapter on technology transfer and innovation. And the science is clear about the role of innovation in achieving the climate goals. The IPCC report highlights the importance of systemic approaches to innovation and technological change, and how such approaches may play a role in addressing parallel challenge of climate change and sustainable development. It also reaffirms that international cooperation on technological innovation is one of the enablers of climate action in developing countries upon mitigation and adaptation. We took the recommendations into consideration when developing the rolling work plan of the TEC, and as we continue to expand our work on innovation under the technology mechanism, we remain committed to pursuing cooperative action, forging and strengthening partnerships, and engaging with technology stakeholders. innovation leaders, and all relevant actors who believe in the power of collective action. And that is what this event is about. On behalf of the TEC, I thank all the speakers and attendees for their interest and participation, and look forward to a fruitful discussion in this session and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ariesta. I would like to take this opportunity to give you a brief snapshot of the work of the CTCN. In 2022, the CTCN continued to support the development of institutional capacities to identify, disseminate, and develop analytical tools, policies, and best practices to facilitate the uptake of environmentally sound climate technologies. The CTCN does this primarily through the implementation of technical assistance. So far, CTCN has received a total of 360 requests for technical assistance from 109 developing countries, and this includes 15 multi-country requests. This year, Bolivia, Comoros, Morocco, and the Seychelles submitted their very first request for technical assistance to the CTCN. That is very good indeed. Today, we are talking about innovation, and I'm pleased to share that the CTCN has facilitated a wide range of innovations and successful collaborations. For example, several governments have requested technical assistance from the CTCN to develop structured frameworks and roadmaps to guide the creation of their national systems of innovation. The CTCN also implemented the Adaptation Fund Climate Innovation Accelerator to foster innovation in adaptation in 25 developing countries. At the CTCN, we are very focused on promoting and fostering youth innovation, and we do this in part through our Youth Climate Innovation Labs, which we have now concluded in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the MENA region. These labs bring together selected youth participants as well as climate technology experts to explore innovative design, thinking, and tools, and create solutions for climate action with continued support to implement and scale up their solutions. Let me conclude by sharing an important update as well. The CTCN has just completed the development of its first 5-year program of work that will start with effect from next year to 2027. The new program of work recognizes the important role of two key enablers of technology transfer, which are digitalization and national systems of innovation. At the same time, the program of work focuses on 5 areas of system transformation, which are water, energy, food nexus, buildings and infrastructure, sustainable mobility, energy systems, and business and industry. Colleagues, friends, as the CTCN embarks on its new program of work in 2023, its work is more important than ever to support countries in implementing innovation approaches or innovative approaches in their commitment under the Paris Agreement. We invite you all to benefit by being active through your NDEs in respective countries and draw the full benefit of this program. I thank you.
microphone? Can you put the microphone, please? Good afternoon to everyone. If, as an explorer, I would come back from my flight around the world in a solar-powered airplane, from the overflight of the pyramids with absolutely no fuel, saying that the world is beautiful, that nature is magical, that life is a miracle and we have to protect it, I would get a lot of applause, but it would create absolutely no result. Because the language of the key decision makers is not the beauty of the world. The language of the key decision makers is job creation and economical development, which means that we have to avoid this misunderstanding between the one who wants to develop the economy and the one who wants to protect the environment. This is why, after this adventure around the world with Solar Impulse, I put a second phase in the action, which was the demonstration that the solutions we need to solve climate change exist and are profitable. And I believe this is a really different thing, because very often when we hear the negotiations in the COP, and I've been doing all the last COPs, we always hear the resistance of the negotiators, the resistance of the countries, believing that fighting climate change will be an handicap for their economical development, for the job creation, for their future. They believe that it will make a sacrifice. And I wanted to show that it was exactly the opposite. If you want to develop the economy today, if you want to help the global south in the development and the job creation for millions of new young people arriving on the market of labor, we need to become more efficient in what we are doing. More efficient means that we can do more by consuming less. Less waste of energy, less waste of food, less waste in the natural resources. And how do we do that? We can do that by sacrificing our lifestyle. That doesn't work, nobody wants that. Or by introducing new technologies that allow us to be cheaper in the production of energy, which is now possible with renewable sources, cheaper in the use of resources with all the solutions that allow us to be more efficient. So this goal was something that held the Solar Impulse Foundation busy for 5 years, because we wanted to see if it was possible or not. And believe it or not, it is possible. We identified more than 1,450 of these solutions in the field of water, energy, mobility, construction, agriculture, industry, circular economy, water management, waste management. All this is available today, has been certified in the process by Ernst & Young. Why don't we use these energy solutions, these resource solutions better, more, everywhere? Why don't we have this logo, together for implementation? Wonderful to have it written here, but what are we really doing to implement it? So today, when we speak about technology innovation, let's be really clear. Maybe we need additional innovation for the future, but we must first use the technological innovation that we already have, the one that is available, the one that the startups have already deployed, or that the big corporations have invented and tried to put on the market. And how are we going to do that? By creating a need for these solutions to be pulled to the market. Normally, we push innovation. We put grants, pitches, incubators, subsidies. And then when these solutions arrive at the valley of death, they stop because there are no customers to use them. There are no countries who are really willing to implement them on a large scale. So what we should expect from the key decision makers today is to be much more ambitious in the legal framework, in the norms, in the standards, in order to create a necessity to use all these solutions that are available. Creating a necessity, what does it mean? It means that it should not be allowed today to be legally allowed to pollute, to be legally allowed to waste resources and energy. There is enough energy, there is enough water, there is enough resources, but 3/4 of it is lost because we still use old and inefficient technologies. So today the message should be much more clear in the COPs, to the negotiators, to the key decision makers. Today, if we want to help the Global South to develop, if we want to survive in the economy of the rich countries also, we need to switch from this inefficient way to produce too much, consume too much, waste too much, and have a small margin of profit, to what I like to call a qualitative growth, where the economical development is based not on the quantity of the production, but the quality of the efficiency. And if we do that, we save so much money that we can pay for the upfront investment. You see that there is absolutely no contradiction anymore between solving the climate change issues, solving the pollution problems, and developing the economy of the countries who need to be developed. But as long as we don't understand it, we will have one bloc against another. We'll have people who will fight together because they don't agree on the final goal. Today, it is a fantastic opportunity to modernize the legal framework as much as we have modernized the technology. It has to match. It has to match. And if it doesn't, we will continue to believe that climate change fighting, mitigation of climate change, attenuation of climate change is an handicap, is a sacrifice, and not an advantage. This is why we continue our action at the Solar Impulse Foundation also by making a guide of solutions, not just solutions for everybody, but also a guide of solutions that can be applied for cities. You know that cities to be created in the next 20 years represent the equivalent of the size of Manhattan every 4 months. This is what has to be built to host all the newcomers in the cities in the next 20 years. So you see that we need all these solutions. And today, we can already, not in the future, but today, we can build with half decarbonized cement, fully recycled concrete, insulation of buildings, heat pumps to heat or to cool the buildings, to make almost zero carbon living. We can reuse, save, and recycle water. We can use all the waste to do something with them. Close the landfills and avoid pollution in the oceans. We can have electric mobility, not just to drive, but to store the energy during the day in the batteries of the car and give it back to the grid when there is a peak of consumption. We can have new industrial processes. We can have new processes for agriculture. We can go into circular economy because all the resources we use can be used also in another way. This is the type of system that will solve the economical problem, the climate change issues, and the quality of life of people. Because when we speak of a just transition, I believe that this is the only way to be just is that everybody can really have an advantage in it. Not just the key decision makers, not just the environment, but all the populations. So if there is one message I'd like you to keep in mind, each time you hear that fighting climate change is a sacrifice, tell them it's not true. Each time you hear that fighting climate change is difficult, tell them it's not true. Each time you hear that fighting climate change is expensive, tell them it's not true. Because it is economically profitable, it's a huge advantage for everyone, and it should be a goal just for the future of humankind that is so obvious that everybody can participate in it together and not fighting, negotiating, resisting as it has been done now. So I'm not going to end up and say thank you like usual. I'm going to say please do it.
Thank you very much, Ariesta, my partner in crime here at the Technology Mechanism. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very grateful that you could take the time to join us this afternoon. I'm grateful to the leadership of the chairs of the Technology Mechanism, Chile, Norway, and Kenya, the USA, who have guided us through this year. I feel absolutely inspired having listened to our keynotes, and really reminds us why we do what we do. Thank you very much. And so for this session, I would talk for hours, but I really want to thank you for that inspiring speech. And I really like the 1,000+ solutions, because people always ask us, where is the technology? And I would really just like to go around with you to tell you where the technologies are. And then, of course, to our colleagues Carsten and the wonderful work that TEC does. And Miko, with whom we do some of the most groundbreaking work, some of the best and most positive responses we get from the member states, including here at the COP and the Climate Adaptation Accelerator work that we do together. So I will start with you, Carsten, if you don't mind, please. You do amazing work as an initiative that works with people and enterprises and various organizations. And I'm keen to know if you could share with us how you as an organization contribute to supporting countries in implementing their NDEs, especially in the context of this implementation COP.
Thank you very much, Rose, and thank you for the opportunity to join this session and to join a conversation about such important mechanisms of the infrastructure that enables technology to meet with regulatory change and political will and determination. Should I check for the sound? No. Okay, I would like to answer that by starting with a word that Bertrand mentioned, the word, the notion, the concept, the language of demonstration. We are an organization that partners with countries and starts with the destination. Starts with what would it look like, what would it mean for Slovenia or Ireland or countries in Africa to live sustainably so that lives are flourishing, so that the environment is regenerated and restored, and so that development is sustainable. In our context, where we are really focusing on deep demonstrations, what we call deep demonstrations, in order to create that sense of mobilization of a sense of possibility, and indeed of the sense of positive reinforcing cycles. This is good for all of us, and it's possible, and it's here. We work particularly in European contexts on this construct of deep demonstrations, and what it means practically is that we start, let's take an example, for example in Slovenia. We start with an ambition, which is an intention, not a set of objectives, but the intention to transform. to take the entire country to circularity by 2030 in 5 major industries, in construction, in manufacturing, in mobility, in food, and in forestry. And then we work to understand, so what would need to transform? Where are things connected or broken or disconnected or stuck or vested or patterned in a particular set of emissions assumptions or material cycles? And where are there assets and resources to achieve a transformation? We have the technologies, they're here. They're simply not integrated or not incentivized or not being used, or we haven't quite taught ourselves the idea not to think of them as difficult, but to think of them in fact incredibly beneficial. So we will then build a place-based portfolio of hundreds of solutions, integrate and built and implemented or implemented so as to promote the exploration of relationships between them. So the relationships between the way in which we think about sustainable forestry and the way in which technologies in wood in construction can transform the way we retrofit or build new buildings so that we are creating carbon sinks in our cities, and so that we can then think about biophilic environments that create a different emotional and social response that helps for much more cohesion and well-being and health. So we bring human health and planetary health together, so that we integrate urban farming solutions that helps us address food security and local mobility and transport transformation, so that you don't have people commuting for hours, so that we can think about how to reconfigure transport between cities and across regions, and so that we can try to integrate questions of supply chain between rural and urban areas, integrating waste and water solutions, nature-based solutions with AI solutions and microgrids and distributed ledger to enable participation or buybacks. A portfolio of solutions that is connecting hundreds of things together into a market-building logic. And we are, with this type of methodology, we are now working in the European environment to lead the work on the missions, the city mission, for example, which is 112 cities committing to decarbonize by 2030. That's enormous market-building change. That's 112 cities procuring green cement, green steel, green glass, green infrastructure, green transport, green food chains and logistics and supply chains. This is the kind of wake-up call we need, and that enables technologies to come through. And then the last couple of reflections, the importance of doing this, of building technology into the places that can change into a national context of transformation, it creates precedent. It creates the courage to act, and it demonstrates that this is possible, and that it is possible as a way of dealing with multi-level crisis like the energy and food crisis we have now.
Thank you very much, Rose, and it's really wonderful to be here on this panel, and thank you so much for inviting us to be part of this. The Adaptation Fund has been supporting technologies since its inception, because in one way or another, technologies are part of the adaptation solutions that we support and have been supporting for almost 15 years. Being under the convention, the Adaptation Fund is a country-driven fund, so what we finance is based always on countries' priorities and needs. Our projects need to be consistent with the national and subnational strategies and plans that countries have. In terms of adaptation, they typically refer to national adaptation plans, nationally determined contributions, and sustainable development strategies, if they exist, and then the projects would need to be consistent with those. For innovation specifically, if technology needs assessments and technology action plans exist for those countries, then the projects also are screened against their consistence with those government plans. So I mentioned the adaptation fund projects need to be country driven. They are also always concrete, and they are aimed at impact. And many of the projects that we fund use direct access, channeling funding directly through national entities. Climate change adaptation is always local, and therefore the activities, including technologies, need to be tailored to the local circumstances. And increasingly, we've had emphasis on locally led adaptation, which is an emerging theme. The technologies being locally appropriate doesn't only mean that the technologies are sound to the climate risks, but also that they are adapted to the local social and economic realities where these projects take place. And this local rootedness of the projects increases their acceptance, their sustainability, and adoption, and hopefully the longer life cycle of these solutions that we are funding. And in that as well, locally led adaptation has a clear advantage. And I'd like to also echo Bertrand's comment on the push and pull. I think it's a very important point, and we try to solve that by, from the very beginning, working with the countries to ensure that there's no gap between the production and adoption of those technologies that we support. We finance an innovation program that, like adaptation funding in general, does not target any specific sectors. We finance activities over 10 sectors, and that's not even a conclusive list. It really depends on country priorities. The proposals reflect many problems in many sectors. Just to mention a few examples, for example, community-based desalination using renewable energy that we've been funding in Antigua and Barbuda and in Namibia as well. Managing invasive species in Bhutan using novel technologies for managing an invasive pest that is spreading its distribution due to climate change, and financing slam dam technology in Uganda, which is inflatable dam technology that serves to both control floods and store water. So you can see it's a very diverse selection of activities that we support, and that diversity keeps on growing.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the question?
I think that in your presentation, you talked about the importance of the laws and policies that need to be modernized.
Yes.
To reflect.
Yeah, exactly. When I was flying with Solar Impulse, I was astonished to see what I could achieve with the modern technologies, like flying with no fuel, no pollution, and no noise. And looking down on the ground, I was thinking the rest of the world is completely in the past. The rest of the world is using thermal engines that waste 3/4 of the energy, badly insulated houses, old industrial systems, old and polluting heating and cooling systems, wasting water, wasting resources. And I was thinking, how is it possible that it is still allowed to live like that? Because it's polluting, it's depleting the natural resources, and it's extremely expensive to live like this. And this is when I started to think, well, we need the technology, of course, but we have the technology, we have the solutions, we have a lot of innovators. And now what we really need to do as a policy is not just to make huge commitments about being carbon neutral in 2050, but to see what are all the regulations today that can allow the replacement of the polluting systems into modern and clean systems. Which means that in every law, in every legislation, in every regulation, we should have the norms, the standards that are adapted to what is possible today and not to what was possible 50 years ago. So if we have regulations for buildings who are well insulated, if it is not allowed to lose heat through the chimney, if it is not allowed to waste hot water in the drain, but we have to recycle it and use the heat again, all these things would be fantastic incentives for the innovators to bring their solutions on the market. So we see that it is not just a huge long-term thinking, it is how to take every solution that exists and push it to the market with clever regulations, clever norms, clever standards, with one common denominator is efficiency. Just efficiency. Because if you save resources and energy, I'm sorry to say it several times, but I really want you to remember that. If you save resources, water, energy, and so on, you save money. And with this money, you can invest in the upfront investment, in the capex that you need for these things. Because of course, you need to invest in them. But the misunderstanding is that we think it's a cost. But it's not a cost. A cost is when you put money and you lose the money. The investment is when you put the money and you get more money after that. And today, all these solutions are profitable investments as soon as the governments, national, regional, local, would push these solutions to the market with clever norms and standards.
like to see somewhere where some pilot projects and something that is demonstrated in an integrated way.
They wanted
Thank
to
you
ask.
very much.
And the gentleman who was in the back, please.
Oh, it's for me? Yeah, go ahead. I'll go after you.
Thank you for giving me the word. I'm working actually for UNDP. My name is Mohammed Bayoumi. I'm working for UNDP. I'm a believer that fighting climate change is going to be through innovative solutions. We don't have any other way to do it. And I'm talking from practical background. We have seen the development of technologies like LED swept the whole world. We had market transformation in my country that have led to decrease in electricity consumption by about 10 to 15%. This is what I mean, by innovation and solution that can really make the change. We have seen, another example, the PV solutions and a brilliant idea that came with the feed-in tariff that had led to dramatic decrease in the prices, of the technology that I believe is going to be sweeping the world again, in few years. And there are other examples, like electric vehicles and electricity storage. And I came to this session to hear about this type of technologies that can really make the difference globally, which unfortunately I haven't seen, through the discussions so far. But the point I would like to make is that there was lots of attention to develop technologies globally related to climate change mitigation. We haven't seen the same, for climate change adaptation. And I believe that there are serious technologies that need to be developed in order to provide alternative routes for resources. If we're talking about water reclamation, desalination, combating, the environmental impacts related to these technologies, smart agriculture, low-cost technologies for coastal adaptation and protection from sea level rise. We need to see these technologies to develop like we have seen with the LED and the PV. But unfortunately, I don't see global attention to this type of technologies to flourish. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we have one at the back, please.
There was a question here.
I'm sorry, I had a question as well. Can I go first? Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Ilke. I work for GSTIC. GSTIC is the global sustainable technology and innovation community, and we support all the work TEC and CTCN do. We try to create a momentum and create a community to accelerate innovation, and as all the panelists have told you, it's very important to really get the innovations of today into the ground and accelerate them on a global scale. I loved all your presentations, and my question concerns about the implementation on a scale of including all society, as CTCN Advisor Moses also told, involving youth. So I would like to hear about the other panelists, how you are involving women and youth and the knowledge of indigenous people in all the projects around the world. Thank you very much.
To the gentleman in the back, please. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm from Belize. I've been listening to some of the discussions, and of course, I'm part of the technology family. When and some of that I can probably get cultural experience.
The one in Borku. No, this gentleman next to Ariasta. Like not the chair, but the next.
Told the CTCN wants this two-way type of situation because they offer a lot of support, sustained support. We understand, especially and from the Caribbean, population size is quite small. We have
Thank you very much, our national designated entity from Belize. I understand we have an intervention from BioTreasure, please.
Thank you, Rose, for giving us this opportunity to talk about our experience in BioTreasure. We, BioTreasure, a startup from Yemen, and we are working in biogas technology, biogas from waste, especially for rural areas and for farmers. Actually, we have been part of the innovation lab that carried this year by the CTCN in the MENA region, and our project figures as one of the among top 3 of this program. This was a very interesting experience, especially for us as coming from developing country. We are facing some problems, including the ecosystem. Especially, we don't have environment ecosystem in Yemen, especially for the startups. So when we got this chance, it was a great chance for us to get some training from experts in the business development and other strategies that can scale up our startup. But we are looking forward if there is some finance opportunities, because we got capacity building, but we don't have more access to finance. So if there is opportunities to cooperation with the adaptation fund and can scale up the programs like the innovation lab and make some parts for mechanism for funding just for the enterprises that facing some turbulence and weak access to the funding in countries such as Yemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much from our colleague from Yemen. Now, I would like to hand the floor back to our panelists. I'll just follow the order in which you are from my right. Miko, if you would like to start, please, with a few comments, and then Kirsten, and then we'll end with our keynote speaker before I hand over to the chairs. Miko, please.
Thank you very much for the comments and questions. To the gentleman in the back who raised the question of or the point that adaptation innovation doesn't exist at the same level as mitigation innovation, and we don't have the equivalence of LEDs, or at least they are not as visible yet. I think you're completely right that we don't see yet that diverse range of adaptation innovations, or they are not necessarily made public in a way that they would have permeated the public consciousness worldwide. That's exactly why we are trying to support innovation in adaptation through different funding channels, and we are relying on the innovation in a bottom-up way coming from the communities, from the practitioners, using networks such as CTCN and maybe Climate Kick and others that are connected to the innovators that can produce new innovations in adaptation. We do this at very different scales, starting from a couple of dozen $1,000 for small-scale community innovation projects, all the way up to $5 million per project. The partnership that we've had with the CTCN has been for almost 5 years now, has been extremely successful. We are just starting our new medium-term strategy, and we are looking at expanding both the UPSIA model that CTCN together with UNEP has been implementing, and other channels as well. I'd also like, if I may, just to touch upon the topic of the role of women and other vulnerable groups, because I think that's a really important point. And we try to do that in the Adaptation Fund for 2 reasons. One is that equitability between women and men is a goal as itself, and we try to promote it as a fund, but also recognizing that we cannot produce functioning solutions if we don't take into account the diversity of our eventual stakeholders. For example, the needs of rural women in the developing countries are often very different from those of rural men, and we try to distinguish and make sure that we are inclusive in the way how projects are developed and actually also implemented during the project lifetime, so that the views of different vulnerable groups, not only women and men, but also minorities, particularly vulnerable groups, let's say disabled people, are being taken into account. So that's an area where we are working very actively at the moment. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Kirsten, please. I've been told to remind us that...
You would like me to hurry up?
Sorry, Kirsten.
I will try to be quick. Okay, so maybe just three things. I'd really like to build on what Mikko said. Yes, and maybe just give some examples, since you are asking for examples. So let's get concrete. Climate Kick, for example, runs across Africa a number of accelerators that are specifically focused on adaptation, innovation, and resiliency. They are local community-driven accelerators and incubators, and they have a huge focus on female entrepreneurship and female-led programs. I would want to do a quick shout-out for an initiative that is called Daughters for Earth, run by a woman called Zainab Salbi, which is specifically looking at supporting a lot of the transformations and technologies related to cultivation of land, regeneration, restoration, agriculture, and so on. There's a huge nexus there. So there's a lot happening in the space, but I would agree with you. This is an area where we know nothing about what we don't know. The world is physically changing so fast, and we are only just beginning to comprehend that that's happening, let alone begin to adapt. So this is really critical. Secondly, on the observation about breakthrough solutions, the one caution that I would have is we cannot build a world where we simply substitute the broken ways of living with technologies that have an efficiency improvement. We need a paradigm shift for the way in which human societies think about living. And we have a lot to learn through biomimicry from ecosystem services and technologies that have design principles that are taken from the natural world and embedded right throughout. And I think that's one of the things we need to be very careful of. We are talking about forging a different design for life and having the humility to learn how to do that from the natural world and embed that in our technological design. We are doing it. We have not really thought about how to think about ecosystem services in the way in which we integrate the applications of technologies and enhance development. And the third point was, I think it's really critical, this element around the relationship between regulation and authority, and the gentleman from Kurdistan was asking for demonstration areas. Yes, there really are now happening countries with the courage to say, we will demonstrate, we will do this to ourselves. There is one thing that matters. Decision makers need choices. They need options. You cannot say it should be like this and automatically it becomes like this. One of the things we've learned is to create regulatory sandboxes and policy labs that connects immediately the experience of integrations on the ground with the policy environment to show explicitly, here you have a book of legislation that is stopping green hydrogen accelerating. Here you have legislation that for unintended reasons is stopping the adoption of nature-based solutions. This is a way of getting rapid feedback loops and helping decision makers see, I can choose to change 2 clauses and suddenly technology that is available can scale. And I think it's important to remember we are human. Humans need sometimes the scaffolding to find the courage to act and to be more radical.
Thank you, Kirsten, for thinking about the paradigm shift. Because right now, there would be one paradigm shift that would be so comfortable. It would be to reduce the air conditioning, where everybody is freezing in the room. We have to wear a tie or to close the collar, to wear a jacket when it is 27 outside, beautiful temperature that everybody would enjoy. It's expensive, money is wasted. Energy is wasted. CO2 is produced. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is common sense. So we speak about all the technologies we need to implement, but common sense is already doing a lot. So now you are also asking in your questions some examples of practical implementation that can be showcases. In the solution guide for cities that we are publishing on the 17th of November for the Solution Day here in COP, there will be 190 study case of technologies implemented in some regions of the world, developing world, northern countries, showing how it is successful in their implementation locally and how it can be globalized to all the other cities and all the other regions of the world. One of them I love is about heat pumps that were usually reserved to individual houses of rich suburbs, and now you can have them to warm or cool buildings, skyscrapers in the middle of big cities with geothermal wells. Who is doing that? An exploration oil company. Instead of drilling for oil, they drill for heat. And this is a so nice example because what was impossible 5 or 10 years ago is possible today. What was too expensive 5 or 10 years ago is affordable now and even profitable now. So all these things can be published. You can go on the Solar Impulse Foundation website. From the 17th of November, you'll have all the examples. I don't have all the time to give the 189 other examples now.
Thank you very much. And thank you for keeping us grounded. I was smiling here and saying I am very grateful you accepted our invitation because it's what it is. Sometimes we have to say it, and I thank you for that. And I really do look forward to that launch of the solutions that you are going to launch on the 17th, because that's exactly what we are looking to do in the next 5 years. Where are the solutions? Who can we work with to support us to deliver the support for the next 5-year mandate that the member states have given us? Thank you, Carsten. Thank you very much. I really look forward to exploring this partnership, especially with cities, the level of urban growth and its impact on emissions, but also resilience in communities is critical. And Miko, thank you for your leadership. The leadership you've provided in accelerating technologies for adaptation, which, as Carsten rightly put, we still don't know a lot, and we still need to do much more in that area. So thank you for your leadership in that. As I thank our panelists, if you would please give them a round of applause. You could stay seated because now I'm handing over to my chairs, Ambrosio and Moses, please. You could stay seated, Bertrand, it's all right.
A question, Rose. Should we answer also the questions? Some were addressed to TEC and the CTCN.
Of course, there was a very specific question to the chair, so I hand over to you to make any responses, but also to lead us to the conclusion of our event.
Thank you very much, Rose. I will give my time to our excellent TEC member, Monique Motti, so she can answer on behalf of the TEC. Monique, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Monique Motti. I'm a TEC member, and I'm one of the 2 women that is on the TEC committee. My fellow female mate is here, Kinga, in nice bright pink scarf. So there was a question regarding youth and women involvement. TEC has recognized that we can do better in terms of gender balance when it comes to the committee, and we've encouraged all the parties to submit when it's time for female female participants to our TEC. But I have to say that regardless of that lack of maybe visibility, the work has been very well pursued in terms of getting gender focal points. Kinga and I were both gender focal points for the past 3 years, which was a great experience in trying to involve a lot more of gender aspects into our decision and our work. We also work with the UNFCCC's Women's Constituency to also get involved in the activities and to have knowledge sharing, as well as with Youngo, who's very involved in our open calls to any of the papers that we make, and also their participation in our board meetings. So from my experience, I highly encourage women to participate in a very interesting committee, and I hope that we will have more balance on board. But in the meantime, Kinga and I are both up for renewal, so if we are not renewed, then that will be another interesting outcome of it. That's how I can answer. Thank you.
That's brilliant, and I'm happy to hear that from you, Monique. We also had a question of CTCN, and I want to give you a short story. Before I ask a member of the CTCN Advisory Board, whoever will volunteer to answer that question, it's a very beautiful question, and that is, how do I request for technical assistance? I will open it up to a member, because I want participation, or even an NDE. The story I have, and what this reminds me of, is many years ago, as we were trying to create awareness in Kenya on climate change, and we had a document, the strategy, and we had workshops and meetings, and people started picking up. And one day there was a meeting, and I sneaked in. It wasn't government meeting. I sneaked in and sat down. And then questions were being asked. And they were saying if government was here, they would answer. But you know what? Somebody in the audience came up to answer the questions, and they were answered correctly. And I was so impressed. And it was a youth meeting. So we have achieved something by you were not aware of the CTCN, and it may not just be you today. There could have been so many others, but by coming here, there you are. Now you are aware of the CTCN, and I'm happy about that. And I also don't see why, if you're not members of the network, you qualify to be, and you should actually join the network. That was great. I thought I was the only one freezing, Bertram. It's a very nice way of complaining. I am really freezing. And I can see sense in what you're saying. Wonderful indeed. Eh? So that tells you that when we are together like this and we talk and create awareness, it goes beyond just a room. And you will find action following it soon. With that, I want to just request a member of the CTCN Advisory Board come up and just answer that question in a very brief sense. In the meantime, as I wait for a hand to come up, I want to refer you and everybody else to the CTCN website, ctc-n.org. It has so much. It's so resourceful. Make sure you visit that website. And you will see so much that you need to know. And you will get in touch also with the CTCN, yes, and all other members. Okay, a member. Somebody is looking at me so nicely, and I think I should just point at Nicholas, if you don't mind.
Can you hear me? Yeah, thank you so much, Amélie. Bonjour Bertrand, content de vous revoir ici. So I'm Nicolas Galedec, I'm the EU technology negotiator. I'm also a member of the advisory board of the CTCN. And perhaps, I mean, in practice, I'm perhaps don't have as many years of experience to understand the full difficulty of sort of applying at least to the technological assistance. But I think it was the good opportunity, as we are actually in the middle of negotiating rounds, to point out to the importance, I think, and we are now in a very interesting period because we have this new program of work coming into place for the next 5 years that is within this very specific framework of the UNFCCC, a framework that is very much party-driven. We're speaking here about technology that's in a way very, separated in a way from the world that Bertrand, Madame as well, you're actually experiencing, which is about the actual technologies themselves. And here we're talking about basically, in the way that I see it, sometimes we try to give it away, portray it in a way that is a bit of the past, so simply development cooperation aid. But I think what Bertrand, you were actually bringing to the conversation was very much what we expect the CTCN to work around in the coming years, is to work upstream, basically, because what you said, what matters is that we can keep on trying to of course, bring technologies to the ground. That's of course, that's a fascinating and important aspect of it. But without actually questioning what kind of technology we want to use, then I think we are actually close to going nowhere. So I really want to hope that the CTCN and actually a range of actors that are actually in the tech world can understand the importance of sort of bringing some additional attractiveness and a role of the technology itself before even speaking about their application on the ground. Because to me, I actually sense to miss a part of it as it stands today. So hopefully by having a more focused sector-specific program of work in the next few years, this is going to be achieved. And I think this is, I hope, an insight to what we're going to have to discuss also as negotiators, the actual impact. Again, I think seeing as the technology mechanism as an upstream, they say creating the technological space, adequate technologies and regulatory spaces, for them then to be applied and developed and on the ground is this the way to go, and also accompanying a downstream effective experience. So probably I could let somebody else speak on the aspect of the actual technical assistance today.
Thank you, Nicholas. We will stop there. I'll answer you very briefly because of the time that we have. We have to leave the room. We don't want people to walk in. Yeah? I want to answer very briefly. We have the NDEs, National Designated Entities, in every country. It's through the NDEs that a technical assistance request is made in any form. They will help you to package it in the right way. And all NDEs are on the website for every country. You can start there. And National Designated Entity. If you go to the website of the CTCN, you will find that. And I have so much to say, and people have so much to say as well, but forgive us. You can understand why we need more time in an event like this now. I don't know. Yeah, I'll give you a minute. I'll give you a minute. Yes, kindly.
Yes, between the lines, I hear something interesting in what you say about technology, because it's true that technology can save the world or destroy the world, depending how we use it. And a big mistake that we do sometimes with technology is to believe that we will find in the future the technology that will correct the mistakes that we do today, as an alibi to do nothing today. Because if we can, for example, reabsorb the CO2 in 10 years, maybe we can continue to emit as much CO2 as we want today. So we just do more of the same because we think technology will save us. That's a huge mistake. We should really focus on using what we have today to do something better today and not to imagine something else that we don't have.
Thank you so much. And now we want to close. Okay. I will now speak on behalf of both the TEC and the CTCN, acknowledging the urgency to ramp up climate ambition and action. The TEC and the CTCN are determined to step up their support to countries on climate technology policy and implementation, so they are able to put their climate plans into action at the pace and scale that is needed. Building on the lessons learned from the implementation of our previous work through extensive consultations with the technology stakeholders and guided by the latest available science on climate change provided by the IPCC, we have developed the first ever joint work program of the technology mechanism that will guide the work for the next 5 years. The joint work program is a significant milestone and signals a new era of work for a invigorated technology mechanism serving the Convention and the Paris Agreement. It seeks to scale up the uptake of technologies to support NDC ambition and bring about urgent transformational changes needed to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement through national systems of innovation, digitalization, and the technology roadmap, to name a few areas. The joint work program also focuses on high potential sectors and high impact actions on water, energy, food systems, sustainable mobility, building and infrastructure, industry, and energy systems. In a nutshell, we show that the tools and know-how required to build, required to limit warming are available. What is needed now is to scale up efforts at a faster pace and bolster innovation, and strengthening partnerships are key. Please consider this as an open invitation to all interested stakeholders to collaborate with the technology mechanism in implementing this joint work program. We look forward to engaging with you, both of us as TEC and CTCN here, and also the TEC and CTCN Chair. We will be here entirely. You can, in the COP, to the end of it, you can contact us. You can also contact the Secretariat, members of the Technology Executive Committee, members of the Advisory Board. They are all around. With that, I want to thank you very much. And we have now, I'll invite my colleague.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.